Hey friends, welcome to this video about how to do liner and brows for ladies with hooded eyes, like myself, or more mature ladies who might feel like the skin between their brow and their eyelid isn't as taut as it used to be. There's a number of ways that we can actually lift that with makeup. So we're gonna lift those eyes, we're gonna flatter your face shape, and then we're gonna paint for the cheap seats. This tutorial is different because I don't just tell you how to do these things, I'm going to tell you why. More mature ladies and anyone who has been around a little bit knows that it's much easier to understand something if you understand why you're doing something and not just how. Because then if something goes wrong, we can always pop open the hood and maybe re-examine it or fix it. Just a quick note, this isn't going to be a full makeup look, it's going to actually be me doing a blueprint on my face of how to adapt any makeup look to your face shape, and depending on how much hoodedness you have, whether it's from age or like me, just your genetics and face shape, how much you need to lift, where you need to lift, some do's and don'ts, and Willie knows everything about brows. I mean, look at those fabulous brows. Look at them, they're so fabulous. They're so fabulous. Okay, now that we're set, now that we're barefaced, hair up, robe on, let's get started. So the first thing that we want to always remember is we need a really nice clean canvas before we start. So make sure your face is washed and moisturized. Again, I talked about this a little bit in my first face video, and this is really important for mature ladies or anyone who tends to carry excess water weight in their face, and I just really like it, is the Ordinary Serum. This is the caffeine 5% solution. Again, it's wonderful. It doesn't smell like a lot of serums do. It doesn't go bad. It's really nice that, you know, it's just a couple drops, mix it in with your moisturizer, pat it in, and when you are putting your moisturizer on, always make sure you push upwards, especially on your neck. You never want to pull downwards on your neck. You always want to push up. And then especially here, push out, and then here, push up for sure. It's kind of like when you go to a massage or when you wake up, there's wrinkles on you that were on the sheets. So the more you work that out, the better it's going to be. And especially here, push upwards. It's a nice habit to get into. It works against gravity. It works towards all of your lymph glands and stuff like that. And it's just a really nice massage for your face that keeps you nice and springy. And that caffeine solution, it'll just tighten things up a little bit to get rid of that bad gravity. So before we get started, we kind of need to talk about the structure of our eye, whether it's just hooded or if you're starting to see a little bit of extra tissue over here especially. Anything that's coming down over your eyelid, that's where we want to talk about everything underneath it and then all the shape that it has, because that's really what's going to tell us where we need to do something, and if something goes wrong, where we need to fix it. So let's get started talking about that. Get ready to get to know your eye. It's just as important as knowing what your face shape is. So I'm going to kind of make sure that the monitor can see me, and I have little willy fuzzies on my face. So this is our eye space. The whole orbital, everything underneath it, all the way up to our brow. Right underneath our brow, we have our orbital bone. So this is kind of, I'm gonna be really gross here and I'm gonna poke it. This is where your eyeball is inserted. But where our eyeball is inserted is not always where our crease is. Our crease is where our eyelid folds naturally. Mine is very low. You can see it a little bit if I relax my eye right here. This is our outer corner. This is our inner corner, or tear duct. We're going to talk about our lash line. Our lash line is, on whichever lid we're talking about, is where our lashes begin and our lashes end, they're not the same as the inner and outer corners because our lashes don't extend all the way to our inner and outer corners for good reason. So that all being said, the first thing that we need to do is have some sort of primer on. And again, while this isn't going to be a whole eye look and it's going to be a blueprint, I'm still going to put a little bit of primer on so we can better see where I'm drawing things. So for anyone who has maybe dark circles, or the more you feel like you have on the top of your lid, you want to use a lighter colored eye primer because this is going to highlight and lift the area. It's not going to highlight it in a bad way. So I'm going to use the P. Louise real quick, and I'm just going to put it all over my eye. And for me, I'm going to use this shade 2 because especially when I have a spray tan, it's going to be several colors lighter than my skin tone. And that's what you want to use, is you want to use something significantly lighter than your skin tone. If you're not getting a spray tan, think about using something like shade 1 or a pretty light colored primer. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then we'll get talking about liner. Okay, so now for liner. I will recommend for pretty much everyone some sort of fine tip brush liner. And the reason I like to recommend a brush liner is because it has a very fine tip. For especially my mature ladies, the big fat crayons or pencils, those can actually really work against you in not really getting where you need them to go, especially if you have like a little bit of a tremor in your hand, or if you don't see very well up close, don't use the pencils. They can also be kind of sticky, they dry out, and this will always give you a nice crisp line. So I'm just going to use my MAC brushstroke liner. And the way that we want to do this, and remember, baby steps. Slow and steady wins the race. And the more you practice, the easier it's going to be, and the quicker you're going to be able to do it. So just give it some time, all things in good time. So we talked about our lash line. We're going to start where our lashes are at our inner corner. So the lash is close to our inner corner, and then I'm going to go along my lash line to exactly parallel to where that inner corner lash line stopped. So I'm not going to go all the way to the outer corner. I'm going to start here. And I'm tipping my head back because my big old eye folds love to go down and hide it. So I'm going to end here. So it almost looks like I'm cutting my eye short, but I'm not. If I look straight on, you can see that it begins and it ends at the same vertical point, right? That's because if we bring this line down farther, it's going to bring the whole eye down. It's going to bring the whole corner of the eye down farther. And we don't want that. It's all about lift. I'm going to say that 1,000 times in this video. I get so sick of it. What does it even mean? Next thing is I'm going to just sort of, again, almost like a blueprint, I'm going to draw a dot over on this skin. So even if I have a very low outer corner lid hanging down here, even if there's like a crease or, you know, a crow's feet or anything else that you think you have here, it's okay. I want you to just relax your eyes, and this is where you're going to draw your dot. Where our eyebrow extends out, we're going to draw it about halfway here. We're just going to go. This might look wild, but if you see, that's where I'm drawing my dot. Now I'm going to connect this to this. And I want to do that looking up And if there's any extra skin hanging there, I'm just gonna pull it up a little bit. I'm gonna use this mirror. So I've got it connected. So now when I let it relax, you can see where it is, right? Now I'm going to connect that to the middle of my lid, somewhere between the pupil and the iris. And I'm just going to tip my head back because I need a little closer. You can take it easy with just nice, short, simple strokes, whether you're doing the line or whether you're filling it in. So now we have this nice little wing. And already, because I have this space here at my corner, it's lifted up. Even if it dips a little bit, that's fine. It's winged eyeliner. It's supposed to whoop, so no worries. I'm just gonna do it again quickly on the other side. One tip I want to give for my ladies who might have a little bit of a hand tremor that'll make it a little bit easier is I really like using a yoga block. If I'm feeling a little shaky, if I'm a little over-caffeinated, which is, let's be real, pretty frequent. Usually I'll have one of these with me at a competition anyway, and you can do it by if you place it down and you have your drawing hand elbow resting on top of it. You can take your other arm and brace it as you draw. And this extra stability can help correct for any shaking that you might have. And I think that might be a really helpful tip for those of you who feel like you can't or you don't really hold a pen very super still. And maybe that'll help you adapt to the brush a little bit better instead of the crayon, which is a little more, error-proof, but it's not as nice of a line. Now I'm going to talk about the blueprint for kind of the rest of the eyeshadow. So this is applicable to any eyeshadow look that you decide to do, whether it's a particular color, whether it's one of the ones that I'm posting, or even just for one that you're designing yourself, which would be really fun. So, ladies, I'm just going to pull this up a little bit. I'm going to look in the monitor here. And so my natural lid is very, very small, as you can see. I have all this brow space and very little lid. We want to look like we have big lids, because a big lid means a big eye, and it also means that there's less of this skin falling over it, which is youthful and all of that. So again, it's all about lift. And like I say in so many of my videos, draw the face you want on the face you have. I talked a little bit about that in my basic eyeshadow video, but we're going to kind of go into it a little bit more in depth here. And I'm going to use this other liquid liner to kind of draw on my face where I want you to do your eyeshadow. So now I'm going to draw where my eyeshadow should go. I have where my lid color is going to go. I'm going to draw in where my crease color needs to go. And then of course, we have all this lid space where we can have, our base eye color, whether it's a green or a pink, whatever you like. So, I have my little wing here, right? I'm going to find a place that's halfway up it, close but not in my natural crease, and I'm going to kind of lift my eyebrows up and get this space nice and taut. I'm going to take this here and I'm going to draw a half moon into my natural crease. This is where I want my eyeshadow crease color to be. This is where I want my lid versus upper eye space boundary to be. So this is just the blueprint. I wouldn't do this in an actual look unless I was doing maybe like a glitter line or a cut crease. Any sort of movement of my face, it'll pop that lid out. So that'll give you much more shape to your eye. And the same thing over here. Halfway up the wing. And where it meets my natural crease is right underneath where my eyebrow sort of starts. So like right here, right? Be a quick shot of that. And again, this isn't meant to be the look, it's meant to show you the structure of it. And remember, kind of like I talked in my basic eyeshadow video, if you have hooded eyes or you feel like you have a little bit of sag here or your brows are kind of coming down or you have extra skin here, you don't want to put a lot of really dark color here, and you definitely don't want dark color all over your lid because that adds a lot of weight and it makes your eyes look very, very small. And it can work for some people, but generally it doesn't on most, unfortunately, unless you have really big eyes and you're very, very young. Now, lower liner. Because if we feel like our eyes are kind of sitting heavy on our lids, we want to open up that eye because those lids take a lot of our space. And so we're going to open our eye a little bit with some white pencil. I talked about the Marc Jacobs fine liner before, also the Lancome Drama Liquid pencil. This one's in French lace. We're going to start at our tear duct, our real inner corner, and we're going to go along our waterline as far as you can go. It's okay if it's messy, you can always clean it up later. And the more you practice this, the more your eyes are going to get used to it, and the less your eyes are going to water. So that's always a really nice perk of practice, is your eyes actually get used to being poked. And so for our lower liner, we do definitely want something that defines really well. And this is where, if you do like the crayons or the gel sticks or any sort of pencil, this is where I would recommend them, on the lower lash. We want to do this on our lower lash line, so along where the lashes are, but we don't want to go all the way to close it in the outer corner of our eye. We don't want it to touch our wing. And if your eye corner drops down a little bit, you don't want to go into that because that's going to sort of bring attention to that shape. And so again, we want to create the illusion of lift, and we're drawing the face we want on the face we have. So just like our upper lash line, we're going to start at the same place on our lower lash line, maybe a little bit behind it. And we're going to make a stupid face while we do it. And when we get to the corner, regardless of what's going on over here, we're going to make a slight flick upwards, almost parallel to that wing. And so you can see I have this little line going upwards, and that also pulls the eye up. This is very ballet technique, actually. This is a really popular sort of idea from ballet dancers, that you have the two very, very separate pieces of liner, so to speak, that are all being drawn very much upwards and to highlight cheekbones and everything. So it's a very common practice in ballet makeup, actually. Also on your bottom liner with regards to eyeshadow, one of the things I would recommend if you're gonna put some shadow underneath, first, not too much, because that can sometimes accentuate heaviness. But if you do it right, it can bring a little bit more attention to the center of your eye instead of any heaviness you might have in these outer corners. If you do it, here's how I recommend you do it. So I'm going to use green just for visibility purposes. I'm going to take some green eyeshadow on my brush, and I'm only going to go in the center of my eye and not all the way outwards, but just a little bit. Looks a little ridiculous without the full makeup on the top. But if you can see what I mean, it's drawing attention here and here. It's mainly drawing attention to where my iris is. That's where you kind of want to think about it, is where is it drawing attention, especially if it's colorful. You can also give a little bit more to this by adding a little bit of glitter here, just underneath your lashes, just a little bit, or like a highly sparkly shimmer shade, just a little bit right underneath where your irises are. That'll kind of pull the attention there as opposed to anything else. All right, so brows. Brows are gonna be a part of this picture. The two big things are the shape and then the highlight. So let's talk a little bit about brow anatomy. Maybe you don't have highly arched brows, maybe your brows have fallen a little bit. It's okay. We're gonna draw them on the way that we want them to. So we wanna think about where we want our brows to be. Again, anatomy of your eye shape and eye space. Your arch wants to be at the end of your iris. That's the ideal place for your brow arch peak. And so for me, that's right here. I just kind of put a little dot in there. So now what I'm gonna do, again, we're gonna play connect the lines. I'm going to start here at the beginning of my brow. I'm going to go underneath it, upwards into that dot. I'm adding a little bit. So now we're going to take this point and I'm going to draw along the top of that brow line, and I'm going to extend it outwards. Pretty far out too. I don't want to make it too sharply downwards, and I never want it to pass this inner corner. So if I have, I can just buff it out. You never want this end of your brow to be lower than this end of your brow. That's kind of all we need. I'm going to do it on the other side real quick. So really what that's doing is it's giving us a little bit more space right here underneath our arch. And by creating that space underneath our arch, it's actually giving us a little mini facelift. It's also very feminine, and it's very traditionally ballroom too, to have those very intensely arched eyebrows. Doesn't matter whether you have thick brows or thin brows, you can draw these on. There's also a handful of cosmetic companies that actually offer brow stencils too. The other part of the brows is the highlight. And basically, we want to highlight that space that we just created underneath our brow arch. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this highlighter. This is the Too Faced Diamond Highlighter. I like this because it's super holographic. It stands out really well. It might not be your jam for a dress that you're wearing, or you might not care for it, but I'm going to use it here because it shows up really, really well even without other makeup surrounding it for instructional purposes. So I want to make sure I don't highlight anything around here. I don't want to highlight this part of my eye. I want to highlight the part that's lifted, and it's going to look like it's so lifted that actually I have contour over my orbital bone. That's why you highlight underneath your brow. And so we're only going to highlight this inner third here. So from here, right about where my iris is, up underneath the arch, and that's really it. And now you can see how all of this just pulls this whole side of my face up. Finally, we're going to talk about the last thing you can do to really create lift in your face, especially at those outer corners. It's definitely the most dramatic part of this. And even though all of these things together right now, my eyes look pretty lifted, this is what really, really, really takes the cake. And this is what really snaps it into place. Lashes. Specifically, lashes with a certain shape. And that is the flare shape. Flare-shaped lashes are shorter on the inner corner and longer at the outer corner. I have talked a lot about don't put dark all over your lids, don't put dark in your outer corners if you're looking to not weigh them down. Lashes are different, and I'll tell you why. Lashes are, 1, away from your face. 2, lashes move. So they move with your eye. They're never static. Winged liner, static. Eyeshadow, static. Lashes move. What that long outer corner does is, especially when your eyes are open, it hides anything that looks like it's falling or any texture you have over there. It basically hides any shadow of extra skin you have over there that you can't take care of with shadow that's just existing. If you had lashes on that were longest in the middle and were shorter on the outsides, the illusion that it creates is that both sides of your eye have fallen and that they're covering your lashes actually. So people who are younger, who wear lashes of that shape, it can work for them. Or anybody who doesn't have hooded eyes, it can work for them. But if you have hooded eyes, I really recommend having flare type lashes because it will push all of that up. Is, partially an illusion, but hey, what are you gonna do? Lashes are kind of the rhinestones of the face, if we were to kind of connect it to dressmaking. Rhinestones hide a lot of sins. Lashes do too. They're a really quick, easy way to, really glam up your face. And it'll look so good in photos. I know I still look like ridiculous, but it was funny. So actually, something great just happened. I was talking to a friend of mine and I mentioned, hey, so I just filmed a video about doing liner and brows for ladies with hooded eyes or who are finding that, it's not as full as it used to be or as tight. And she actually said, I always have my liner or my eyeshadow ending up on my crease. So when you have hooded eyes or that extra skin, your eye lays on the top of your eyelid, right? And this happens to me all the time. There's 2 solutions to this. 1, make peace with glitter. Because in my various videos that involve glitter, when you apply the glitter with the base, it actually creates a solid space on your lid that is not transferable. It's also key to have really good waterproof and sweat-proof liners, and these 2 are the ones that I swear by. I talk about them in the eyeshadow video. The Marc Jacobs liquid gel liner and then the MAC liner. If you're just doing eyeshadow, as in no glitter, one of the things I recommend actually doing is taking some transparent setting powder. There's so much powder. Oh my god! Some transparent setting powder. And you take a big fluffy brush, dip it in, tap it out. Oh my goodness. And you just press it on top of your lid. I have super oily lids, so for me this is something I definitely do, even in an everyday look if I just have eyeshadow on. And you just very gently press it in, let it sit, dust it off very gently so you don't disturb your eyeshadow. And then no matter which method you choose, always make sure to top it off with a really, really good setting spray. Setting spray is makeup's best friend, next to good primer, like I always say. My favorite is the Skindinavia. This is the bridal makeup setting spray. I'll put a link in the description. But this stuff, it's humidity proof, it's sweat proof. I swear by it. I take it everywhere. This is the holy grail. So seal it with glitter, seal it with powder, seal it with spray. All right, folks, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I hope it answered some questions that you had about liner and brows. And I hope it gives you the confidence that you can do it yourself. Or, anything that you know how to do, that you can adapt it for how you want to do it. Because it's most important that you feel comfortable in your makeup. That's really what this is all about. And the more comfortable you feel, the better you're going to dance, the better you're going to feel on the dance floor. And you're going to have some wonderful pictures. I really want to thank Brent Mills for contributing to the music for my channel. Links are down in the description for his Music Mill software and his ballroom playlist. I want to thank Carly for all her wonderful editing work. And more than anything, I want to thank you folks. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure you hit like and subscribe. And if you want to make sure you never miss a video, hit that little notification bell. And as always, make sure to come back soon and get your daily dose of vitamin D. It's good for you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Yes, I love you. It's true. Oh!